Hey, welcome to a brand new episode of Celebrity Expert Live. Greg hanging out with Nick, and we're in Redondo Beach. It's not beautiful out today. It's a little gloomy.
It's a little gloomy, but it's a great day for filming.
It is a great day for filming.
Too bright. If you don't know, people always ask, like, bluebird skies, too bright. It makes contrast really difficult, and so a lot of things are blown out. So actually, it makes you feel a little worse about yourself, but the gloomy sky is good. We got a lot going on. It's been far too long since we've done one of these episodes. Some people will probably get an alert on their iPhone or something and go,
I don't remember subscribing to this thing.
This must be wrong.
Yeah.
But it's been far too long, and we've got a lot of cool stuff to talk about. Might as well start with the fact we're here filming a movie about Jay Abraham. The marketing legend. Jay has worked with everyone from Tony Robbins and Damon John to billionaire CEOs and some of the biggest consultants in the world. And I'm really excited. We got a bunch of clients coming in to work with Jay for a few days. And I think every episode we want to tell you cool stuff. We want to share our lessons. And I think the thing that this reminds me of the most, I think the reason why a lot of people came to support this film, and one of the reasons I do, is that where we have grown our business to in the last, this is our 11th year, I think 11th or 12th year, and where we've grown things, it truly has been a result of the people we've surrounded ourselves with.
Right.
We've heard it, Nito Cubanes puts it, if you want to become great, you have to walk side by side and hand in hand with people of greatness. We've also heard, man is known by the company he keeps. We've heard it as, you become the product of the 10 people you hang with the most. Yeah. And as cliche as that expression is, and you've all heard it before, I just want to reiterate that, as you're working through, we're into March, we're almost a quarter of the way through with 2018. I want to just a moment to pause and reflect on what do you have set up for the next quarter and the next 3 quarters throughout 2018. Yeah. Who are you going to be spending time with? Because that is the only way to get better. You and I both spend a lot of money. I know between us, at least, I'd have to calculate individually, but well over $250,000 a year on coaching and consulting with others who are, and being parts of different groups to spend time with brilliant people. Yeah. And that's where we get so many of our ideas working outside of our bubble. And so the concept, there's a lot of people coming here that I would guarantee you said, I don't know exactly what I'm going to get out of Jay Abraham. Yeah. I don't know. They're paying money to come support making his movie, which will obviously help them with their credibility and positioning the rest of their life. Yep. You'd say, I had private dinner at Jay's home, spent time with the master at his home. I executive produced his movie. It has lessons from Jay, and they get to use that in their positioning the rest of their life, which is great. Right. But also, the way I encourage people to think about this is actually, I called one of my best clients. I called and said, hey, here's the deal. You may not jump up and down and get thrilled about making a movie about Jay Abraham. You should, but even if you didn't, is there one thing that if Jay could help you with, it would be worth far more than the investment that you put into it? Mm-hmm. It's like, I think Jay can. I'm sure there's probably 10 things he can do that will exponentially pay that off. And so I just would encourage people to think through that. What is it? Who are the people who could help you? And think about investing in what does it take to get in a room with them for long enough or to ask the right questions. I've spent a ton of money to get in the right rooms with the right people, and I have up-leveled my game because I hear people talking about things that you don't hear just walking through your office or meeting with the same people you meet once a month at your marketing meeting, or whatever it is. So that's why we're here in Redondo Beach. I guess we might as well give the update too, because we're here to spend some time with Larry King. We did that. So I'm starting a new TV series. It's called, tentatively titled, in case you didn't know, with Nick Nanton. And we sat down with Larry for an hour and some last September in Hollywood. Yep. And I interviewed him about his life. And we sort of cut it together in a new format that I've never seen before, where it's sort of a docu-interview style. So I ask Larry questions, and when he starts answering, sort of Larry is answering and sort of turns into a movie. Yeah. Then it comes back to me and asks a question and does it again. And the really interesting thing about his life that I think will have a lot of reach to it is the fact that he sort of lived history, and he was a part of it because he was commentating it. Most of us, for the last 40 years, some period of our life, we got a lot of context of what was happening in the world from Larry, right? Definitely. So excited that we were able to put that together, and it's a very new format, and looks like he's going to be partnering up with us to make, to get some more interviews. So we'll be doing more episodes of that. I'm super excited about that too. So, but again, those are the types of people that while Larry King while you may not even think Larry can teach you a lot about business, the people who contributed to that and got to be a part of Larry's episode, got to meet him, got to shake his hand, they have amazing, at the very least, amazing cocktail party conversation.
Oh, without a doubt.
But think about this, like I'm writing a book right now, some of the best lessons I've learned from people I've ever met. And if you have the opportunity to meet any of these people or to spend time in a room with them, you can write your own book like that. You can say, hey, let me tell you the most important lesson I learned from Larry King. And you share, I was at this thing, as part of executive produce this TV episode on, you can spin the story. And you spin the story into, it becomes like my book is sort of the new Napoleon Hill, right? So it's all the lessons I've learned from these amazing people, and I can go volume 1, 2, 3, 12, I can go as far
Keep
as
going.
long as I want.
As long as you keep meeting new people.
Exactly. So I want, I guess in this episode, I want it to just really focus on who are you spending time with, and what are you doing to get to spend time with people that are in a higher echelon, because that leads to the next level.
Yeah, so I get that leads into, well, then how do I find the people that I should be hanging out with? And I know you and I both, we've gone to rooms where we're like, oh, this is the wrong room, and some that you're like, this is the right one. And sometimes there's financial risk, sometimes there's leaving the family, sometimes you can meet people in your backyard. I know you have some great local groups that you're a part of. So to seek that out, where did you maybe first start looking and honing in on, well, these are the people that I do need to spend some time with?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different strategies on that. I'd say I tend to look at what do I want to do next, what do I need to accomplish, and what types of people would get me there, and try to find a gathering of them.
Yeah.
When I first started out, I was more actively seeking, our business partner Jack would be like, hey, here's an event coming up, here's an event coming up, here's an event coming up, and I would just go to a lot of these events. And it's interesting because a lot of times, you'll go for a keynote or something, but in most of those cases, you're probably not going to meet the keynote speaker.
Right.
Pretty unusual about our events. That's sort of part of the whole deal with all of our events. But usually, so like Grant Cardone just hosted a huge event.
Yeah.
His 10X event. We're at Russell Brunson's next event, 3,500 people. I clearly know if you just look at the lineup, you can typically tell what type of people are going to go there. Unfortunately, but unfortunately, also, the higher the threshold of the ticket to get in, you will know how much more typically qualified, and it's not always the case, but how much more quality the people are going to be. Because if it's a $50 event or a $15 event, not that you're not going to learn great things from speakers like the Get Motivated events, where they were 15,000 people and it was like 15 or 20 bucks, whatever. Not that there weren't other great people like me or you there, but you went for the draw of the big speaker that you could learn. That's where a lot of people learned about Dan Kennedy, and they had ex-presidents speak and all that. And from that point of view, you knew that the money you were putting in with 15,000 people would bring speakers you could probably never even get that close to ever again, right? Or see them live, like President Bush.
But totally different from someone who spent $2,000 on a ticket, $3,000, $5,000, or the mastermind groups at the $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 level.
Right.
You're going for a different reason, and the caliber of the room is much different.
Yeah, and so you got to figure out, like, what do I need if I'm going to spend $25,000 on a mastermind group? What do I need to leverage out of that? Do I need just one good JV? Do I need 3 people to sign up for my service? What is it? And so, you especially when you're first getting started, and cash flow is directly always tied to the
how much goes out needs to come back in.
Very quickly, as opposed to the bigger we've gotten, we've been able to take some more risks like that. Some of them paid off, some of them have not. It's just the way it is. But yeah, you got to look at that. What do you want the direct return to be? And then I've always found as long as I'm in a good room with good people, so I tend to like the more qualified rooms. I'm in a mastermind with Robin Robbins, and it's a free mastermind. She puts it on, she hosts it, and she just says, hey, if anyone wants to do something for me, she hosts it, she pays for dinner, it's amazing. And she's like, if anyone wants to do anything, her stated goal is to raise $1 million for St. Jude's. And so she said, donate $100, $1,000, $100,000, donate to St. Jude's, I'm just taking this. And she does it to get the right people in the room. She shares a lot of people share a lot. And it's one of the truest masterminds I've seen where everyone is really there to contribute and help out. And that's really good. So, but I go to that event because of the quality of people in the room. And I like the people in the room. That helps too. But other events I go to, I'm going to the Vatican in a month with the X Prize group, and we're on the board there. Super big commitment, but I know the people there. I mean, there's a lot of billionaires and stuff. So talk
to me about that. That was kind of my next question. Is leveling up, right? really easy to get in a room with peers, maybe people a drop below, drop above,
Right.
and you can kind of play.
Yep.
When you first entered this room where it was kind of, 30 billionaires and you.
Yeah,
you
pretty
know?
much what it is. I'm definitely the brokest guy there. I can assure you of that.
But I mean, how do you approach that? I mean, you have a great personality, and you can, I always say, like, you can like talk to the wall, and it's like, writing you a check at the end to like do business together.
Yeah.
But in a room like that, like, do you get intimidated? How do you work into conversations? Because that could be, and not that everyone's going to go in the room with billionaires, but maybe you're going in the room even just with millionaires if you're, a teacher and you're trying to level up.
Right. So I think I'll use a Dan Sullivan concept differently, I think, than
He intended, maybe.
Maybe, but it works too. So Dan talks about the gap. And the gap is basically, look, we've spent at this point, a decade building this business, and there's this place we want to be. I mean, certainly, there's no doubt about it. If you watched our trajectory, TV, movies. I mean, we've got big representation on some movies like Rudy, making the Canines for Wars. Just made this Operation Underground Railroad one, which we'll talk about in another episode. We are moving heavily into the sort of mainstream, high-end, entertainment and consumer content, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where we want to be. So it's very easy to sit here and be so frustrated that we've been working for 10 years and that's not as easy as it should be, and there's things in the way, and but what Dan says to do is you got to turn around. That's called the gap. This is the gap from where you are now to where you want to be. And Dan would say that you can't be creative when you're not feeling gratitude, when you're in the gap. So what you have to do is you have to turn around and look at and sort of laugh at, look where I started and where I am now and how much I've accomplished. You get yourself back into a sense of gratitude so you can be creative, and then start figuring out the building blocks to get to where you want to be. I would say it's the same thing in those rooms, because you can totally get in the gap of like, so this is the funniest thing. I've been on many of these trips where, in the X Prize, literally, I don't know if I'm the only one, but there's probably only 5 or 6 of us who don't have a private jet. But literally, and so a lot of times, we'll be doing things together, and they'll sort of get everyone's jets together, and we're going to fly to these different areas. We're going to go see these guys in San Francisco. We're going to go to LA. And it's all in the name of trying to find what are the next big breakthroughs that are about to happen, so we can incentivize it with prize money to help humanity. Yeah. So it's a good cause for it. But these dudes, they got jets.
Yeah.
And you pull up in a jet, and there's nothing like, and it's a natural feeling, but you can see the look on the face when the guy, when he's, when you're with the guy or the lady who has this jet, and you go to land at the airport, and they pull you up, and when you look out the window, you look up at someone else's jet. Like, this is a $2 million jet, and that's a $10 million jet, and one of the guys has a $75 million jet. And it's sort of like, so this person who just flew me in their jet, they can get in the gap because they don't.
They got envy of
because that other jet costs 25 times more than their jet. Right? And the fuel costs. So it's just there are all these spaces. And just another example, because I was with Kenny Thomas from Black Hawk Down the other day, and not to go off on a tangent, but you'll get the point. There's these gaps in every part of life, because I've ended up doing a ton of work with military and ex-military guys the last few years, from going to Fort Benning and working with the Rangers, working with Kenny, doing his experience out in the woods, doing this operation with the Navy SEALs and ex-CIA guys. And so there's this guy I was working with, is a friend of mine from high school that when the hurricane came through Florida, we volunteered to go do a cleanup one day. I asked him, I hadn't seen him in like 20 years, and I knew he was a veteran, he'd served, he had been injured, and I talked to him, and he sort of felt guilty that, he's like, yeah, man, but I couldn't deploy because I hurt my back and they wouldn't let me deploy. So I felt guilty I'd never served. So I thanked him for serving. And he's like, oh, dude, my pleasure. He's like, but I didn't deploy. So he had guilt for not deploying. Then you talk to the guy who deployed and never saw battle, and he has guilt that he never saw battle. Then you talk to the guy who saw battle and didn't get shot, and he has guilt that he saw a battle and the other guys got shot. Then you have the guy who got shot and didn't die, and he feels guilty that he didn't die and he got shot. And so we all have these gaps of like, we're never quite where we. And Kenny will even talk about the fact when I told him that, he's like, dude, no one's ever explained it that way. And he goes, and I guarantee you, if you talk to the guy who lost his arm in the hospital, he would put guilt on. Well, man, Kenny said this one, man, Sergeant asked to meet me that morning, and so, it was my day off, so Jim said he'd cover the convoy, and man, if I was there, I could have prevented that, so it's my fault that this happened, and whatever. Instead, and so there's all this inferiority that all of us can have in any room we go into. So I guess most importantly, that big 5 minutes tangent was to explain this concept of the fact that there's always people that you feel like are in a better place than you. So I always have to sort of get out of that mindset when I go to Joe Polish's Genius Network, there's so many people there that I've I've known who they are for so many years and looked up to them, and then do I have what it takes to talk with them or whatever it is? And really, the only way I've ever found that makes me feel good about it is like, hey, if I'm just first of all myself.
Yeah.
There's a reason I made it to this room
in the first place. Yeah.
Yeah, because I have some talents that are probably different to theirs. And if I walk in and try, I've never been the type to walk in and try to go, hey, everybody, look at me, look at me, look at, flex my muscle sort of thing. But like, if you can just get into a conversation and be interested in what they're doing, and then interesting in how you might provide a perspective on that or do something for them that they're not currently doing, or connecting with someone. I was with Tom Billiard not too long ago. So Tom has the Impact Theory show, an amazing guy, working a lot with Gary Vee. He built Quest Nutrition to $1 billion company
Quest
like 4 or
Bar is
5
really
years.
good, by the way. Get them as a sponsor of the show.
There you go, let's do it. And so he still owns a big part of that, but walked away from it to build Impact Theory.
Yeah.
And we were together, he's on the X Prize board with me, and we were talking about things, and I was like, hey, we were just talking. We literally were sitting next to each other, and so we got to make conversation. We're riding on a jet together. And I'm like, so I see you girl on the show. Like, tell me more about that, and what are some challenges, or what would make your day? Like, if you could do this with your show. He's like, man, well, there's some dream guests. I'm like, well, who are some of them? He's like, Will Smith. I'm like, well, it's funny enough. Will Smith's manager and Will Smith's manager's dad and my dad worked together for 20 years. I've spoken to him several times. I don't know I can get you Will, but I can just start figuring out when timing might be right. And he's like, dude, you'd be my hero. I'm like, well, I'd be my hero too if I could pull it off.
Yeah.
But I'm not promising. I said, but what about, who else would be interesting? He's like, man, Mark Cuban would be awesome. I'm like, well, I have a relationship with Mark. We're not best buds, but like, we've corresponded many times. I've interviewed him.
Yeah.
And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah. I was like, well, so send me a quick pitch on why you want to be on our show. And so he did, and so I edited it down because I think I'm not knocking. One of his assistants had done it. And it was somebody younger, inexperienced, and it was like 4 paragraphs of hype about the show. And I knew Mark was never going to get past 3 sentences. Yeah. So essentially, I just pared it down and said, hey, Mark, Tom's got over 500 million, whatever the numbers were. Yeah. He's done some insane things. He's had some amazing thought leaders. He's based out of LA. I know you're in Dallas, but I think the next time you have something to promote, this might be really good for you. Just Tom's the real deal. Yeah. He emailed back within, I don't know, an hour and said, man, I'd love to do it next time. Maybe I'm filming for Shark Tank. We're in LA. I'll stop by. I'd love to do the show with him. Yeah. So I connected him with Tom, and he's like, whoa. So now, Tom doesn't owe me anything, but Tom certainly is much more willing to. I now feel much more on equal footing with Tom. Yeah. Although I never built $1 billion company because I helped Tom out.
Fill that gap.
And then Tom came out to our Rudy premiere, and he's a celebrity in his own right, and people wanted to meet him. And it's just, I look at the world of success as an ecosystem, and what can I give you? And if I give you something, maybe you'll want to give me something back. Yeah. And hey, that's the way the world works. But I never walk into it going, hey, can you do this for me? If you can do this for me, I can do this for you. That's just not my style. So when I walk into an X Prize room, I'm always trying to see, what are these people doing? What am I doing? For instance, there's a guy who runs a multi-billion-dollar company that I think for him, the way labor is and the industry he's in, being more connected with veterans would be helpful. Well, I'm making this Canines for Warriors movie right now, so how can I tell him what I'm doing and show him that, hey, maybe there'd be some value to you in what I'm doing. How would we make that work for you? And I'm always just looking for, what am I doing? What do these people be interested in? How could I provide them with an experience no one else is providing them? When I come to LA to do a premiere like this with Larry King, who do I know in LA that if I were to invite them to my Larry King premiere and they got to meet Larry and how would it remind them, oh, Nick, maybe I should be doing more with Nick. And more than that, maybe then I can actually show them what I really do. Like if they see one of my films, they're
totally
like, oh, this is different than I thought it was. Because there's so many guys out there doing a bunch of video stuff. I actually haven't talked to him about it yet, and we'll wrap up because it's a long episode. And we'll talk in the next episode about some other cool lessons I learned. But Dan Sullivan, when we gave him the gift of the movie, I haven't talked to him about this yet. But we made the movie. You can see it at thedansullivanmovie.com. I think it's thedansullivanmovie.com. And Dan was, he kept saying, well, Nick's making this video. And once he saw the movie, within a couple weeks, I saw him talking, and he kept talking about a movie. So it went from a video to a movie, and I can tell he clearly got it, but he didn't even get it until
while it was being made.
Right, and he had seen the movie I made on Peter Diamandis, but until it happened to him, he's like, oh, wait a minute, I'm actually cheapening this by calling it a video,
Yeah.
and it is so different than a video. So, but you know, these are all lessons that I've learned from spending time.
Yep.
Look, I've quoted, I haven't quite quoted Peter yet, but I'll give you one thing from him in a second. You know, Tom Bilyeu, Dan Sullivan, Jay Abraham, and I'm not trying to name drop. These are amazing people. Nito,
Right, but these are all a result of you trying to level up, be in the right room, add value,
and help other people.
And help other people.
And the reason why, look, it often takes money. It takes resources for sure.
Yeah.
But I got into Peter's world and Peter's room, and ultimately I joined the board of the X Prize because I committed to making a movie on Peter first, and our clients helped fund it. So I didn't have to stroke out a check at first, but I then got in the room to do interviews with Dean Kamen, who invented the Segway, with Craig Venter, who sequenced the first genome, with Anusha Ansari, the first private female astronaut, Richard Branson,
Branson, Tony Robbins.
And then recently Pharrell has been at a bunch of the events.
Yeah.
So more and more of this stuff, that's how I got the invite to the Vatican. But so I don't want you to, Rudy, we'll throw another name out. Rudy says money's never the reason. It's never really the block for you. It's just a great excuse. And so when you can figure out the value on both sides, the money actually is easier to find than you think. So all those things to say, get in the right rooms with the right people because they will help you think the right way.
And a couple ways to get in the right room with the right people. This June, we're going to be in New York, 2 really cool events. We have the Global Entrepreneurship Initiative is throwing their annual event called the Forum inside of the United Nations headquarters. Great place for you to be around 20 like-minded people who are giving talks at the United Nations headquarters about how they're changing their industry. And then the following day, Times Square Today, another interview show. I'll be interviewing, you'll be directing about another 20 people. Great people to be around in the room with. And again, always trying to find the value. There's all kinds of great incentives from getting guaranteed TV appearances to the speaking to the videos, all of that stuff. Get in the right rooms.
And we'll be premiering the K9s for Warriors movie there too, which will be even
It's a
more
great
cool
week
stuff.
to get to New York and meet those right people. Thanks so much for listening, watching, however you're consuming this episode of Celebrity Expert Live. Nick, so thanks so much for hanging out with us, and we'll see you guys in the next one.